go check out one short anime in the horror genre called Party of the Dead. The first episode begins with the introduction of one of the characters, Naomi. She wakes up in a strange place, not understanding why and how it turned out to be here. However, a piece of paper found in the school ticket allows her to remember everything. A few hours ago, a group of friends gathered in the classroom to take courage tests and try to communicate with the spirits. A girl about Yuma tells about a school that was located in this very place many years ago. It turns out that it was closed after a series of murders took place in it, and the director committed suicide by throwing himself off the roof. At this time, a teacher is outside the classroom door and is trying to scare the kids. And she does it. They all get scared, the candle goes out, and Satoshi generally grabs Naomi by the chest. Probably, this is the last moment of happiness in the life of the main characters, because now the tough test will begin, in which the life of school children will be decided. And yes, Satoshi's younger sister named Yuko rolls up. She too will take a key role in the plot, and Yun invites friends to read one spell, which supposedly will make the connection of school children even closer. However, instead, the ground under their feet begins to shake, and each of the heroes falls into a place unknown to them. Naomi, remembering all these events, goes in search of the guys and immediately stumbles upon Sika Shinohara. She wakes up, and they both try to figure out where she is now. The window doesn't open, the mobile phone doesn't work, and everything looks old around. During the walk, we are quickly shown a strange girl in red, following her friend. They've been trying to find a way out all this time, and even when they reach the main door, they still can't get out, so they have no choice but to spend time usefully. Seika bandages Naomi's leg, and they decide to rest for a while. After a while, Shinohara remembers that she lost her piece of paper and immediately goes in search of it, and strange things begin to happen in the room on the porch. A pen with a female voice writes something from a notebook. The heroine can't move from her place, and the whole room is filled with blood. The dark entity tries to devour the girl, but she, hearing the scream, the frightened Sika frees herself and runs out into the corridor. Of course, no one is shown there except the body of a dead woman who has been devoured by worms for a long time. All these events make the girl go crazy and even yell at the arrived Shinohara. She, holding a grudge against her friend, runs away, and while walking along the corridor hears a strange voice that calls her somewhere. As a result, Naomi finds a classmate in limbo. She decided to commit suicide. The only question is, was it her decision, or so the voices in her head said? There is no time to sort it out. Therefore, Nao tries to free her friend by pulling her down not up, but down, and then leaves for a while to find some kind of stand, but it still does not help to save Seika. She eventually dies, and the girl in red reappears on the threshold. In general in this place, every person falls under the curse and eventually loses his mind. I start killing all my friends, and since Sika was anticipating such a turn, she decided to commit suicide so that her loved ones would not suffer. After the explanation, we are transferred to another student of the school, a guy named Sekitara Morishige. He tries to break the window with a chair to get out of prison, but he is interrupted by a local girl and explains that none of the people who arrived here will return home. It is clear that no one will give answers to all the questions. Everything will have to be studied by the main character. This is exactly what Satoshi and Yuko are starting to do. On September 8, 1973, the bodies of missing children and a teacher with bloody scissors were found at the school. Most likely, after this murder, the ghosts began to appear. So it remains to find out how to stop them. But before that, take time for your sister and find her a local toilet. Along the way, they stumble upon mountains of corpses and meet Morishige, who takes pictures of a person's insides for some dig. He's trying to find his girlfriend, Mai Suzumoto, but he doesn't realize that the blood stain on the wall is her best friend. Mai came across two ghosts to whom she was telling her story, but their conversation was interrupted by a teacher. She tried to call her student, but all her actions were in vain. The ghosts grabbed the girl and smashed her against the wall at high speed, leaving only a shattered part of her body, and the teacher was struck from behind with a blunt object. Then we are transferred to the hedgehog and a Yumi. The first is already starting to go crazy from the curse, and the second is trying to save her. But their caresses are interrupted by the ghost of a child killed here with a manic disguise. He chooses his first victim, but the girl with glasses who arrived in time saves the couple. It turns out that I found out about Yuma a few months ago. The girl is allegedly a medium and runs her blog about prizes. And it was she who published the Sachek ritual on her website, that is, that stuff with paper tearing. In short, she offers a solution to the situation. There are ghosts of murdered children in this school. We need to find a way to rest and in the soul, as well as to obtain a confession of the murderer. And then, the spell will be broken, and the guys will be able to return home. By the way, the probability of meeting school children is extremely low, because of the curse, several closed dimensions have formed inside the educational institution, and even if they are in the same room, they are unlikely to be able to see or hear each other, and after the ghost disappears, they leave a strange doll we decided is still searching for a friend, and it sticks to photos of mutilated bodies. But most of all, he likes picture piles of meat, which actually belongs to Mario. At this time, he receives a strange call, as a result of which the guy realizes that all his searches will lead to nothing. Suzumoto has been dead for a long time, and he admired her remains, but the brother and sister stumble upon a girl in red. She leads the guys behind her under the pretext of finding a toilet, takes them outside and separates them with the help of closed dimension. Kyuki is approached by a ghost and asks for something back. It's clear that her brother can't save her, so she runs into the building and tries to survive alone. And Yoshiki plus Ayumi gets the killer's confession through a doll and even finds the cut, off tongue of a small cut, with which they manage to rest the first soul. Well, now it becomes clear what exactly the ghosts want to return, exactly what the killer took away from them. As a result, after a while, the couple manages to find all the languages and stop the attack of ghosts, but it's still not enough. So there's something missing in this puzzle. There was silence among the victims. For Kitty Chick, the newspaper wrote that they managed to save her, but still no one understands why she is walking through the corridors of the school. At this time, Yuki, in search of an older brother, stumbles upon Morris Shigi, who has long gone Morris Shigi, who has long gone mad, and mocks all the corpses in the institution. He is so glad that his victim will be a young girl, so he tries his best to catch up with her and kill her. Hiding in one of the secluded places, the little girl gets acquainted with a kid from another school, and instead of trying to pacify the rabid, bespectacled man, he kills him without any hesitation. Here it becomes clear that this Selic is not infected with the madness of the school. He's just a fucking psychopath convincing himself that Yuki is his little sister. The girls have to run and hide in the room, but Dai knocks out. Some guy at this time, Mashida's real brother, finds a way to return to the real world and finally understands why they got here. One of the friends pronounced the spell incorrectly, and therefore the ritual did not go according to plan. By the way, the repose of ghosts has borne fruit. Yoshiki and Ayumi return to their world, meet the spirit of the murdered girl there, and find out the real truth. It was Sachek who was involved in all the murders, and that girl in red and the teacher only helped her, but in fact was against all these atrocities. As a result, after a little rest, the couple again goes to another dimension to save their friends. Of course, Yoshiki refuses and even arranges a whole monologue. But fuck, it's just a mindless waste of time. This whole scene comes down to zero because Selic will come back anyway. Well, after a whole series, we again transfer to Naomi. She receives a call from her mother, but she simply does not hear her, as well as from some guy who asks him to help, after which the floor falls under her and she meets Toshi. Friends discuss the situation and think how to get out of this place. By the way, his younger sister, that is, Yuki, still becomes a victim of that beaten bastard. He mocks her and eventually brings her to a deadly state. From the wounds and shock, the girl dies in the arms of her older brother. In addition to her, Yoshiki, who has returned from the real world, also becomes a victim in the hope of protecting his friends. He sacrifices himself and buys them some time. In the fourth episode, the trio of survivors discuss a plan of action. Prepare their scraps of paper to return to the real world and make the criminal, that is, Sachek, repent. But also here, it becomes known that that bespectacled ghost actually posted a fake spell on his blog, which, as a result, will bring his participants to another dimension, that is, right into her clutches. In search of the killer, Naomi and Satoshi find a medical center where one of the victims worked, a nurse. There, they will find out the real truth. The school principal, in a fit of anger, kills a hedgehog nurse right in front of her daughter Sachek, and after that the girl herself becomes a victim of a madman. But before she dies, she curses him and the whole school. He becomes a violent killer and subdues one of the teachers, and then mocks all the students. However, it is known that it remains to find the girl and try to return her real identity in between runs. Another mystery becomes known. Remember the supposedly accidental death of Sayuko at the very beginning? In fact, she could have survived. But since Naomi was under the power of a curse, she herself became the culprit and a friend. and now her fate is being decided to remain insane or return her real identity. Of course, for the sake of a little happy ending, she manages to recover and help her friends to put Sachik to rest by returning real memories. Well, as if the whole series is coming to an end, which means that classmates need to go back home. It turns out that Naomi lost her piece of paper a long time ago, so Satoshi gives her her own and takes a piece of her younger sister for herself. And so, at the moment of the destruction of the school, the Trinity returns back and realizes that the guy is no longer with them. Only part of his hands remain. It is clear that there is no reasonable explanation for this event. The credits roll immediately. If someone is fumbling, write about it in the comments. Perhaps there's an answer in the game based on which this animeshka was created, but I do not know it. As a result, the series turned out to be interesting and intriguing. All the riddles were given in portions, which means it was almost impossible to get confused in them. The only negative is the rapid movement and the lack of answers to some questions. Fortunately, there's the internet and you can learn a lot from it. But it would still be possible to spend another 5 minutes of screen time to close the gestalt and give viewers unfamiliar with this series a feeling of complete satisfaction. Well, that's all for now.